Americans are durable. We take pride in hard work and high quality. American Giant makes durable, quality clothing right here in the USA. Because what we wear reflects who we are. When you buy American Giant, you're not just wearing the best clothes money can buy. You're helping keep jobs and pride in your own backyard. Premium clothing built to last decades, like it should. Get 20% off your first order at american-giant.com with code RightHere24.
This is a true crime in real time update from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
It was the kind of headline that slices through the noise, a whisper that turns into a roar. Rex Heuermann has been charged with a 7th murder. 7 victims, 7 lives erased, but now, after 24 years, one of them, Valerie Mack, was speaking, at least through the cold, calculated evidence, and the weight of history was pressing in on a community that had waited far too long. On a gray December morning in Riverhead, inside the sterile confines of a Long Island courthouse, Rex Heuermann stood before Judge Timothy Mazzei. The room itself seemed to hold its breath as he shuffled forward, his towering frame casting shadows over the courtroom floor. His face was an unmoving mask of indifference, though the tension in his rigid stance betrayed the cracks. The prosecutor's words sliced through the air like razors. Valerie Mack, 24 years old, a Philadelphia woman who disappeared in 2000, her body dismembered and dumped in 2 separate locations, first in Manorville's desolate woods, then 11 years later near the cursed stretch of Gilgo Beach. 2 crime scenes, 2 decades apart, yet connected by the macabre calling card of a man prosecutors now call a meticulous predator. Her case had gone cold, one of hundreds boxed away in a police department overwhelmed by unsolved tragedies. Until now. Suffolk County District Attorney Raymond Tierney spoke with grim finality. This wasn't speculation. This was DNA. Hard science brought to life by advancements that didn't exist in the year Mack vanished. Justice delayed is not justice denied, Tierney intoned, his voice reverberating through the chamber. The evidence that had once been incomplete, a cruel teaser of closure, had been rendered irrefutable. Yet, when Judge Mazzei turned to Heuermann and asked for his plea, the response came swift, a hoarse defiance that echoed into the silence. Your Honor, I am not guilty of any of these charges. Bailiffs glanced nervously at the crowd, but no one made a move. How could they? For the families, the friends, and the community that had lived under the pall of these killings, the wounds weren't just reopened, they were torn asunder. People who had endured years of unrelenting questions, why? Who? Were now met with a man, flesh and blood, denying it all. And that denial stung as sharply as the crimes themselves. Valerie Mack, prosecutors stated, was more than just a headline. She had been someone's daughter, someone's friend, a young woman with dreams of stability and escape, dreams that ended somewhere between the harsh grid of Atlantic City's streets and Long Island's darkened woods. By 2000, Atlantic City had already become a graveyard for the desperate, where survival was not guaranteed, and trusting the wrong person could be fatal. Mack was swallowed by that darkness. Her torso appeared in Manorville, a remote and wooded area in Long Island where few passers-by venture. 11 years later, as investigators combed Gilgo Beach for more answers, the rest of Mack's remains surfaced. The discovery confirmed what everyone already feared. This was not an isolated act. This was a pattern. Rex Heuermann's name had become synonymous with that pattern only recently. When he was arrested in 2023 for the murders of Melissa Barthelemy, Amberlynn Costello, Megan Waterman, and Maureen Brainerd Barnes, the press dubbed them the Gilgo Four. 4 women, young, vulnerable sex workers, discarded along the same stretch of Ocean Parkway like carefully placed signposts. But as investigators dug deeper, they unearthed more victims, older cases of mutilation and horror that hadn't seen the light of justice. Valerie Mack's case had hovered on the edges, a name in a folder, a whisper in the larger tragedy. Until the hard drive. In the basement of Heuermann's Massapequa home, investigators reportedly found documents that prosecutors describe as plans for the murders. a step-by-step blueprint that prosecutors now claim details the planning, the process, and the aftermath of his crimes. Documents included instructions detailing dismemberment and concealment of identifying features, which prosecutors argue demonstrate premeditation. Other notes outlined quiet execution, checking weather conditions, and finding isolated staging areas. The manifesto didn't stop at the kill. It outlined a careful escape, change tires, burn gloves, dispose of pictures, set an alibi. Cold reminders to refine and perfect. Prosecutors described the documents as evidence of a methodical process that evolved over time, reflecting deliberate and calculated actions. Prosecutors stated that the documents included references to works by John Douglas, a former FBI profiler, as part of their evidence linking Heuermann's interest to serial killer psychology. This wasn't idle reading, they said. This was practice. The courtroom's chill deepened with every revelation. You could feel the collective dread, a realization that this wasn't the spontaneous savagery of a man who had lost control. This was someone whose control defined the act itself. Valerie Mack's murder, according to prosecutors, fit perfectly into the grim framework. Jessica Taylor, another victim in this tragic case, was a 20-year-old sex worker who disappeared in 2003. Her torso was discovered in Manorville later that year, and subsequent searches uncovered additional remains near Gilgo Beach in 2011, connecting her case to the same haunting pattern. Her torso appeared in Manorville, the same ominous woods dismembered, in ways all too familiar. Prosecutors noted that her tattoo had been deliberately mutilated, likely to hinder identification. Her arms, her head, gone. And yet, years later, the expanded search of Gilgo Beach led to her skull and hands, further tying her story to Max and now to Heuermann. Outside the courthouse, the scene was tense. Reporters gathered with cameras rolling, while families of the victims arrived in hopes of hearing answers and progress in the case. There was no answer. Not yet. For now, January 15th looms. Prosecutors will return with more evidence, more connections, more dots strung together. But for the families, answers won't erase the hollow space left behind by those 10 victims. As Suffolk County braces for what comes next, Long Island watches, listening, waiting, and wondering if the shadow of Gilgo Beach might ever truly lift.
In a world where the darkest secrets lie just beneath the surface.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence says otherwise.
Where hidden killers roam, unnoticed, in the shadows.
I think you would definitely be looking at a blend of toxic, very bad narcissistic personality traits, and they will be vengeful and possibly resort to violence.
Join Tony Bruschi as he uncovers the truth behind the most chilling cases.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence clearly says otherwise.
Each episode, we dig deep into the minds of those who commit the unthinkable.
To your point on narcissism, he thinks in his own mind how witty he is.
Yeah.
But he lost that jury. I was done with him in 2 minutes.
From unsolved mysteries to infamous crimes.
Geez, you've just talked about how you've taught yourself how to do everything under the sun. I bet you did a YouTube video, how to best kill somebody with a knife.
Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi takes you where few dare to go.
How does someone with such a dark secret go unnoticed for so long?
With multiple new episodes every single day.
We're not just telling stories, we're seeking justice.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi.